Hello everyone and welcome to His Author's Voice, Stories with a Twist. What are the odds of taking the world by the scruff of the neck, giving it a shake and changing everything? Sex and the Planet. On Susie Kapoor's second birthday, her dad, Ranji, gave her an abacus and an electronic calculator. Within minutes the beads were flying up and down the metal wires and were only briefly halted when she checked her results. Susie smiled at her father and waved a dismissive hand over the calculator, tapping the abacus and pointing to her head. "Everything," she said. By the time she attended school on the South London estate, aged 5, she spoke Hindi, English and Mandarin. The latter through Duolingo, a free online tutorial system. Her maths by now far surpassed her teachers, so much so that they suggested to her parents that she should go to a school for gifted children. Susie refused. "I must be ordinary," she said. "I must grow up a normal human being." At school, her cheerful brown face, laughing eyes, and long black pigtail, combined with her gentle and loving nature, meant she had no enemies. Indeed, even those children with family difficulties, which often turned them into bullies, came to sun themselves in her compassion. "You are not like your mum and dad. You are you. You are a good person. So be brave," a teacher heard her say. The scarred, shaven-headed little boy she was talking to was close to expulsion. But she squeezed his arm and he stared at her, tears in his eyes. He was not expelled. She entered a nationwide competition by a tech firm for an innovation in technology that would change the world. When she won, she became, briefly, headline news. 6-year-old prodigy and dad show experts the way. 6-year-old genius and father revolutionized treatment for dementia. It was her idea to include Ranji as code developer, so that no one really thought she had much to do with it. The prize was what she wanted: a state-of-the-art computer. Ranji and Shoshami encouraged her in her wide-ranging absorption of knowledge. They could hardly stop her. She'd become a disarming, benign force of nature, and she no longer asked them questions. What she needed to know came from the internet. She read research papers, opinion eds, critical reviews. She immersed herself in political and social issues. But she was a wonderful, loving daughter. It seemed a good balance, so they left her to her complex inner life. She was 6. Ranji came across her screen one day while she was absent from the room. "What's all this?" he asked on her return. "MI files on climate activists." "What?" Panic gripped him. "It's okay, they don't know. They can't trace. I'm a ghost in their machine. Their security systems are so pathetic." She looked at him. "Believe me, Dad, I know. And the CIA systems are even cruder." "I don't think Susie..." He stopped when he saw her face. "Why are you..." "I want to stop the destruction of the planet," she said, and turned away. "I need to know who they are afraid of." Ranji and Shoshami held hands and prayed. In the week following this interchange, the media and social media world were turned upside down. Every outlet, from conspiracy theory sites to mainstream channels, carried the same breaking news. It was given credibility by being on government websites, in peer-reviewed journal sites, and every kind of related forum. The authorities desperately took the pages down, saying they had been hacked, but they just kept popping up again. The chief medical officer appeared on the BBC. "There is no truth in this campaign of disinformation," he said. "Men are not losing their libidos because they eat meat." "But isn't there research that shows that consuming meat and dairy in excess does have a deleterious effect?" asked the interviewer. "On women too." The CMO looked uncomfortable. "Nothing conclusive," he replied, merely stoking the fires of suspicion. Meanwhile, news stories displayed a sudden rush of men in the waiting rooms of sexual health clinics. Silhouetted males talked about sexual despair at not being able to satisfy their partners. Statisticians showed charts of declining potency in men. And then there were the falling birth rates. In parallel, investigations threw up uncomfortable truths about the meat and dairy industry, lobbying governments and medical establishments to trumpet the value of meat and dairy and suppress research findings on impotence, never mind hormone and antibiotic effects on human health. There was a concerted global campaign against the barbaric nature of industrialized animal rearing. Horrific footage was shown even on the main news channels. Resorting to the only defensive position left to them, governments across the world, as one, proclaimed that to be safe, you should eat no more than 2 servings of good meat per week. The bottom fell out of the meat and dairy industry market. Economies took a huge hit. Stock markets collapsed. People turned to veganism in droves. Rapid change saw land being rewilded, turned over to forestry, soil revitalization, rotation of organic crops, and even the small-scale rearing of pure, unadulterated organic meat for the well-to-do. The projection by climatologists was that this would cut harmful emissions in the atmosphere by between 40 and 60%. The CIA, pressured by multinational corporations, led an international effort to discover the root cause of the mayhem. It was obvious that the revolution had been planned and coordinated by a bad actor or actors. It was aimed at the very heart of capitalism. Ranji and Shashami sat with their daughter one evening after they'd closed the store. Susie was 8 now and had persuaded her parents to pretend that she was being homeschooled. She attended karate, art and drama clubs to continue her socialization. Their cultural heritage led the two to revere Susie as a gift from God. Who were they to thwart divine plans? And in truth, they lived a quiet, happy, normal life with their ever-loving daughter. "We have been anxious that they would track you down," said Shashami. "Impossible," said Susie. "What is most befuddling," said Ranji, "is how you did it in less than 2 years." "I thought deeply about it, researched every context, then created an algorithm to harness all the forces at play. I call it synchrony. I brought together disparate activist groups, whistleblowers, critics, dissidents, which I found in CIA and MI5 files. And without them realizing, I synchronized their activities by modifying their emails and texts, adding new fake associates. Oh, many more subterfuges. I planted the date when action would be initiated. None of them knew they were part of a bigger picture. D-Day, Deliverance Day. That was the easy part. Her parents never failed to be astonished at the adult voice issuing from the lips of their little girl. Meanwhile, I entered the systems of the medical establishment, news media, political parties. I added extra details to what they call press kits. These are ready-to-go news items. If a breaking story needs instant embroidering, they make them live. Most of them had ready-to-broadcast packages on meat and veganism, global warming, of course, industrial farming, and other ones on erectile dysfunction, potency, and infertility. I just integrated them. Ranji and Shashami glanced awkwardly at each other. Wasn't it abnormal to hear such language coming from a young girl's mouth? Susie smiled, knowing what that glance meant. I decided erectile dysfunction was the thin end of the wedge. The macho nature of most males would see to it. Drive that through and all would follow. I found private and eyes-only communications in secret government files showing illegal payments and lobbying, and released them to media outlets just before D-Day. I unearthed research papers both published and rejected by journals and planted them in forum debates. But how can one person, even a genius, achieve all this in the time? Oh, think of Aikido. In that martial art, a weaker fighter uses the power and strength of her opponent to defeat her. Once you get the knack, it's fast and easy. Generally, systems have no safeguards against being subverted against themselves, and that is what I've been doing in my homeschooling for more than a year. She added, and I am unique. So, is this over now? Asked her mother hopefully. Only part one. Oh. Susie bit into her jalebi, her other hand stroking the cat. I'm going to bring down the fossil fuel companies next. She smiled. Well, there we are. That was Sex and the Planet. If you want another story in this vein on my YouTube channel, you might go to Dead Meat. In the meantime, please subscribe and you will be informed when my next story comes up. And please tell your friends by sending links to my channel. If you prefer to read stories, plays, poetry, then you can go to my website, www.jacksanger.com, and you can download them for free or make a donation. And that's all for now. Till next time, bye-bye. Bye-bye.